the Supreme Court motu proprio issued that memorandum or that caution. At the same time, the movement against disinformation filed a petition for indirect contempt against Mrs. Badoy, which the Supreme Court, the Honorable Supreme Court, took cognizance of and is now pending adjudication by the Supreme Court.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. So we know the date of the case itself, but may we know the date of the incident of the red tagging of the good judge? Was that in 2022 or 2021?
2022. Your Honor.
2022 also.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Please do proceed.
And of course, the others are, of course, against Atom Pagaduan Araulio. He was red tagged repeatedly. We also filed cases against the red tagging of the journalist in Cagayan de Oro, Corrales. We also, during the height of the COVID-19, SMNI was used as a red tagging vehicle against the frontliners. The medical doctors that were assisting the COVID victims, and the other nurses and other field workers of the Department of the Health. They were all red tagged. So there is a very perceptible trend that SFNI is being used as a vehicle for red tagging, and what had been termed by the Honorable Congressman Kimbo as a systematic vilification of certain people that are against what they are trying to advocate on SMNI. So in other words, what I'm trying to say, Your Honor, Congressman Gutierrez, is that we are simply documenting and putting on record these various cases to highlight the fact that the Honorable House Committee on Franchise should take into this matter.
Thank you very
pursuant
much.
to Section 21 of Rule 6 of the Constitution on this investigation power of the House Committee.
Thank you, Attorney Domingo,
Mr.
a
Chair.
media law professor.
Mr. Chair, if Congressman Gutierrez would allow.
Gladly, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, the Honorable Toby.
Yes, because this case was yung sa Supreme Court po. Ano pong petsa po nun?
October po yan, Congressman.
Ano po?
October po.
2022.
2022, right.
Mr. Chair, last
Yes.
week sabi po nila meron silang ethics committee or ano ba yung sabi nila doon? Nag-imbestiga ng Grievance committee. Supreme Court na po ang nagsalita, di ba po? Na
Yes.
sinabing hindi ayos yung ginawa.
Opo.
Ano po kaya ang naging resulta ng investigasyon ng Grievance Committee tungkol sa bagay na yun, Mr. Chair?
SMNI. SMNI. Ito po yung grievance committee na, yes.
If we may advance the information, Mr. Chairman. The committee decided to impose sanction against Mr. Celis.
Is there a action, is there a document that would show that a sanction was made?
So I'm sorry.
But,
Kay Ms. Badoy pala yung tinatanong niya.
so nagkamali po
I was
kayo na-
referring to Mr. Celis.
So, sandali. So, mali ho. So, that is not a, you're striking that, you're requesting that, you're withdrawing that statement.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. Can you answer directly the question of the Honorable Toby Tiangco?
Yes, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
That time, I remember that the court ordered show cause for Dr. Badoy, and we also called her on the committee, Dr. Marlon, me, and the rest of the board, and she had submitted to the court what is, ano pong sagot niya doon sa kanyang show cause, at pinagsabihan din po siya na respetuhin po ang ating Supreme Court, at nakinig naman po.
Pero
Chair.
alam nyo, anyway, alam po nyo yung grievance committee na mention ni the Honorable Tiangco is very questionable also. Because I raised that issue that when they told me the composition of the grievance is the producer, the executive producer, the associate producer. How can you have a grievance committee? Sila din naman na nagpalabas ng programang yun. Tapos sila how they cannot negate or they cannot go against their talents. Kasi alam naman namin yung negosyo ni Congressman Richard yan, no? Pag ikaw ang producer ng show, ikaw ang executive producer, tapos ikaw rin ang grievance committee, hindi ka pwede. Kasi anong pwede mo sabihin mali? Ikaw ang producer ng show. Di ba you cannot contradict what you just did. Sila na nagkamali eh. Ang nagkakamali din yung production staff din eh. Di ba? So, paano nyo gagawin yung grievance? So, anyway, ibang usapin yan ha. Pero I just would like to take note and put it on record again that the grievance committee, I think, is not organized correctly. You cannot have the executive producer of a show, the producer of the show, part of the grievance committee because they are part of the problem and they cannot be part of the solution. And I think anybody in television who has experience will agree with me on that. Yes, Honorable Toby Chang.
Yes, Congressman Duterte.
Yes.
No, because this is a very serious allegation. Alam niyo, minsan, kahit hindi tayo nag-agree sa decision ng korte, we have to respect it. No?
Correct.
Hindi natin dapat batikusin yan. So, my question is, inimbestigahan ba sila ng network? Nung lumabas yung Supreme Court doon sa admonishment ng Supreme Court.
Yes, ma'am.
Was there an investigation or not,
Ma'am.
Mr. Chair?
Meron po ba?
Yes po, Mr. Chair.
Anong resulta?
Pinatawag po namin si Dr. Lauren and she was reprimanded at pinagsabihan po siya na igalang po ang ating korte.
Mr. Chair, can we have a copy right now of the reprimand?
We will submit within the day, Mr. Chair.
In the day, within 10 minutes, Mr. Chair.
Can you retrieve it from the office and send it to us? I-viber nyo lang po sa committee secretariat.
Yes po.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman Gutierrez. And thank you, Chair.
General Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Congressman Chanco. Mr. Chair, so according to our resource person from MAD, we have quite a few high-profile incidents ng red tagging, fake news. Of course, this is under Ms. Badoy, but we also have the instance now that is being investigated dun kay Mr. Celis. I would like to also include as a high-profile incident of fake news. So, Mr. Chair, one more question that I have for the lead convener of MAD. Mr. Chair, do we have this kind of trend occurring in other media outlets, in other networks?
May I be recognized, Your Honor?
Please reply. Before that, the chair would like to recognize the presence of our Senior Deputy Speaker, the Honorable Don Gonzales Jr. of the 3rd District of Pampanga, and Honorable Representative of the 1st District of Agusan del Norte, the Honorable Jose Aquino II. And of course, for the 1st District of Surigao del Norte, the Honorable Bingo Matugas. Welcome, sir, to the
Mr.
committee
Chair,
hearing. Yes, please reply, Attorney.
my apologies for the interruption, but may this representation be granted authority to leave the committee hearing as I have a flight to catch, Your Honor.
Well, it appears if you don't have any substantial, your role here is just to deliver a letter
Yes, Your
to
Honor.
the committee chairman.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you're excused.
Thank you very
thank you.
much, Your Honor.
Yes, now proceed. The Honorable, yes. Who is the question? Yes, the
Okay.
Honorable, Mr. Attorney Domingo.
I'm not yet honorable, Your Honor. Thank
Yes.
you. In answer to the Honorable Gutierrez, there is a very perceptible and perhaps very, very systematic use of SMNI as a vehicle for red tagging and all this vilification campaign. Let's not go far from our house here right now. October 11, SMNI was used in an interview with the former president, threatening gravely your congressman, Franz Castro, na papatayin siya. That's why he filed a grave threat case against the former president. Not only that,
Sino ba nagbayad nun?
on November 16, the former president, in the same interview, in the same program, hosted by the SMNI, repeated the grave threat. Okay. Now came the the subject matter of the privileged speech of the Honorable Suarez about 1.8 trouble. These are all systematic trend of using that particular franchise for their own agenda. And I'm not implying anything that is political, but I am implying about the fact that there are disinformation, misinformation, fake news, and
Burgado
other
wala naman eh.
historical revisionism being peddled on that particular
Jingle
SMNI
Bito.
Thank you, Mr.
platform.
Chair. And I think yes, we are establishing this trend, no. Mr.
Alice
Chair, I'd like to
Torres.
reiterate my question to the good attorney, if we may know, because I'm sure MAD as a social civic community organization is monitoring this information not only with the SMNI. So, Mr. Chair, my question is: do we have a similar pattern of this information of red tagging fake news
Subukan
in
mo,
other
tawagan mo.
outlets?
Babayaran ko na yun eh.
Other media outlets, some of
Isip
the
mo
big
kung
names, do we
nakapula
have
pa
the
rin.
same
Iwan
kind of
pa
instance,
mo.
or is this seemingly endemic to the SMNI?
Well, in fairness to the SMNI, there are some traditional media outlets that have been guilty of red tagging. And I cannot, for the moment, give you all the occasions that have been red tagging
ba?
incidents. No? But nonetheless, what is very prominent in the context of our in relevant and material to our discussion right now, what is very prominently
May papel
mentioned
ba dyan?
and very high profile would be
Decision.
the SFNI.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yung high-profile cases nito would be,
Wala
seems
na
to be,
papel.
based on our research
Wala
persons,
may pamatay
endemic to
toner?
the SMNI, not exclusively, but the pattern seems to be established here. So, we bring this up because, of course, we were talking about the Section 4 violations when it comes to deliberately false information circulating. Of course, these are not, open and shut cases, but this tends to give us a pattern that we can look into, and this tends to establish it. So, Mr. Chair, Ms. Badoy is not here, but I would like to ask the attorney perhaps if he would be familiar with how long Ms. Badoy was with the USEC of PCOO.
I have no personal knowledge with respect to her engagement with the former administration, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Mr. Chair. So, but since when was she engaged for SMNI?
2021, Mr. Chair.
2021. Any specific month po ba?
Ano? July of 2021, Mr. Chair.
So, July of 2021. I would assume this is still a year before the election, no? So this was still in the previous administration.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So, Mr. Chair, maybe know perhaps from the president that they knowingly um, hired or perhaps engaged with Ms. Badoy as a sitting official? Or did she retire prior to the conclusion of the administration?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yusek Lorraine Badoy has program in SMNI, Laban Kasamang Bayan, during the time that she was still the USEC in the PCO spokesperson and a member of the NTF-LCAC.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there was an overlap po, no?
Yes po.
We see a clear transition from Ms. Badoy being a USEC on a program of SMNI and now still being on SMNI but as a private person. Mr. Chair, does SMNI have any means of determining which statements she's making as an official and which statements she's making as a private person? Because I understand, Mr. Chair, the substance usually of the of her program would tend to revolve around this sort of systemic kind of information, as mentioned by the lead convener of MAD. So, Mr. Chair, we'd like to know if where does her official function end and the private person begin?
Can I defer the question to her lawyer?
Mr. Chair, I'd prefer to find out. No, I'm asking about SMNI's practice. How do you determine the separate liability?
No, actually, the broadcast has two kinds of broadcast. There's a live and there's a recorded. So we cannot, if there is live, of course we cannot stop her from talking.
Mr. Chair, but I believe that's actually a provision of your franchise, that it is a responsibility that you have to stop any
Well,
broadcast.
I mean, we cannot say what we cannot tell her what to say, what not to say, because she's on live.
But surely, Mr. Chair, you tell her to speak as a private person. Or are you admitting here today that you were giving this airtime in an official capacity to the government of the Republic of the
No,
Philippines?
no.
So private nga po yun.
Yes po.
So, Mr. Chair, we have established now, because it was quite confusing during the last hearing, that she would cite government documents, especially if I recall, regarding Chairman Benny Abante. She cited that I have basis to say all of these things because we have in this intelligence cluster this and that. But Mr. Chair, it's admitted now by SMNI that it is in her capacity as private person. So I think something that we should consider is that this information that is spreading by virtue of their failure to segregate, when is she acting in an official capacity and when is she acting in a private capacity? Because of that commixture, we tend to have this information citing certain sources which aren't supposed to be relevant to their private capacity. So these are some of the things that we're seeing now, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Chair, one more question. Unfortunately, I'm not so versed no in the world of television, but can you explain to us yung difference po as Miss Badoy as talent and Miss Badoy as the co-producer? Mr. President of the SMNI.
I would like to defer the question to our consultant.
Yes. If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Wait. Sir, you're acting as what?
I'm acting as the consultant for broadcast operations now.
You are a consultant.
Yes.
So anything that you say here, you are authorizing, Mr. President.
Yes, Your Honor.
Klaro
Mr.
po
Chair.
tayo dyan, ha? Mamaya sabihin yun, may disclaimer na naman kayo dun sa consultant, ha? Okay, na hindi yan official position nyo. Sir,
Mr. Chair?
kayo po. Yes.
Mr. Chair? Just
Come
very
on.
quickly, so just want to confirm, as a consultant,
Who are you referring to? There's
the one who volunteered to answer just now, si Mr.
Jay,
Sancho ba?
Jay
Mr.
Sonsa.
Mr. Sonsa.
Hindi
Mr.
mo ba
Chair,
napapanood yan? Sa ano? Sa
perhaps not my time, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Okay.
Apologies if I should have known.
Okay.
But Mr. Chair, maybe ask si Mr. Sons, maybe confirm that Mr. Sonsa, as consultant, has capacity to make management and executive decisions within the SMNI.
Yes, a question. Mr. President, do you have that? Do you substantiate that statement? Na may kapangyarihan po siya kasi ang opinion ho niya, importante kung kasangayunan nyo.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Bibigyan namin
not actually recognized by the ComSec when she mentioned the resource
Yes.
persons. So
Yeah.
Our apologies.
am I recognized right now?
Yes, please.
Yes, you are. Well, the common denominator here of all these cases that we had filed, we are the movement against disinformation, we are representing certain complainants.
Yes, sir.
Would be the red tagging. No?
Opo.
While there is no judicial definition of what red tagging is,
Correct.
but other statutes would cover red tagging in its own. No?
Yes, Attorney Domingo.
By definition, red tagging is actually the malicious blacklisting of people or individuals or organizations that are against the present administration or the other party in the political arena. No? So that would be essentially the definition. So what we did was, Your Honor, we filed cases, for example, in the case of Kadapan, who was the co-eds of the University of the Philippines who were murdered by General Palparan. The SMNI was used as a vehicle for the interview of that General Palparan without even the authorization of the DOJ. That was already finally resolved that the DOJ did not have any authority, did not give the authority to give that kind of interview.
Good morning! Ngayon ay araw ng Huwebes.
Would have supposedly revolved around would have supposedly revolved around Mr. Celis and Ms. Badoy, but understandably, they're not here given the other matters that they have to
Yes.
attend to. So, Mr. Chair, in that case, I guess I have to make do if we may ask the is Attorney Tolentino still serving as counsel for them today?
Yes, Mr. Chair, together with Attorney Rolex Suplico.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to ask the lead convener, si Attorney Domingo of MAD, if they could quickly just give us a rundown of the pending cases. I believe this was touched upon last time, but just to refresh our memories, maybe know, Mr. Chair, if there are pending cases of fake news, red tagging, libel against Mr. Celis and si Ms. Badoy.
Thank you, Congressman. I was not actually recognized by the ComSec when she mentioned the resource
Yes.
persons. So
Yeah.
Our apologies.
am I recognized right now?
Yes, please.
Yes, you are. Well, the common denominator here of all these cases that we had filed, we are the movement against disinformation, we are representing certain complainants.
Yes, sir.
Would be the red tagging. No?
Opo.
While there is no judicial definition of what red tagging is,
Correct.
but other statutes would cover red tagging in its own. No?
Yes, Attorney Domingo.
By definition, red tagging is actually the malicious blacklisting of people or individuals or organizations that are against the present administration or the other party in the political arena. No? So that would be essentially the definition. So what we did was, Your Honor, we filed cases, for example, in the case of Kadapan, who was the co-eds of the University of the Philippines who were murdered by General Palparan. The SMNI was used as a vehicle for the interview of that General Palparan without even the authorization of the DOJ. That was already finally resolved that the DOJ did not have any authority, did not give the authority to give that kind of interview on SMNI.
Yes.
Okay. Now, there are other certain cases, but what I'd like to highlight here is the case of Mrs. Badoy lambasting wholesale the Judge Malagar who issued that decision, not proscribing the NPA, NDF as terrorist organization. This actually is rooted in the independence of the judiciary. If you red tag the judge who is adjudicating certain cases, then the independence of the Philippine judiciary is a co-equal branch of this honorable and august house. That would be the height of the impingement of the freedom of expression, even assuming that there is no red tagging as mentioned. But the court, the Supreme Court itself, the Honorable Supreme Court itself said, it's actually practically cited and told Ms. Badoy to stop doing it and red tagging Judge Malagar, because that impinges on the independence of the judiciary. There are other cases, not very far from here. There is a case that SMNI again gave the vehicle for the red tagging of your colleague, Congressman Franz Castro, recently.
Mr. Chair, sorry to cut off si
Yes,
Attorney Domingo. May I ask the good resource person what date was the issue on Judge Malagar, and what date yung issue regarding our colleague, si Ms. Castro? Thank you, Congresswoman Castro. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Hindi nyo tinawag black timer, hindi nyo tinawag iba. Ang sinabi
the case of
To please furnish the
Yes, we will,
yes, okay,
Mr.
because
Chairman.
we just wanted to determine
hindi po kaya pinapasweldohan ng SMNI sila. Kaya nabubuhay sila mas walang revenue.
Sweldo, wala akong alam na sweldo.
Hindi.
Kung
Mr. Chair.
honorario,
Hindi. Can we, SMNI, can you please answer? Kung
Mr.
sweldo ba
Chair,
sila sa inyo, hindi?
Mr. Chair, point of clarification.
Yes.
Yes.
The Honorable, yes. Before
Just
that, the Honorable Gomez was wanted to be acknowledged. But before that, sumisweldo ba o hindi? Attorney, sagot lang muna.
Talent fee, Mr. Chair.
Meron.
Talent fee, not
Okay.
sweldo.
100,000.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yung sagot nyo.
Per our co-production agreement,
Oh.
and the copy of the co-production agreement is already with the committee, Mr. Chair.
Okay, the Honorable Gomez and the Honorable J.J. Suarez.
Mr. Chair, would it be possible that the President answer your questions?
Okay.
Kasi siya yung talaga dapat nakaka-oversee ng lahat ng operations ng network. Hindi mo naman tinatapon sa consultant mo lang yun. Consultant, binibigyan ka lang ng tip kung anong pwede mong gawin. But, if your day-to-day operations, it should be the President who should answer you. Yeah, he's the responsible person of that network.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Gomez. The Honorable J.J. Suarez.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Actually, I do share the sentiments of Representative Gomez regarding the who should be the one to answer. With respect lang dito kay Mr. Sonsa, sir, you mentioned earlier that you're serving as consultant for SMNI.
yes, sir.
Yes, sir. When did you begin your consultancy with SMNI?
Just recently, Mr. Chairman.
Just
recently.
How long?
how long ago, sir?
Mr.
March
Sonsa.
20. Yeah.
Kailan po?
To be exact, March 20.
March
March.
20.
Opo.
March 20. Do you have any documents that would attest
Yes.
to your
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
can you please submit this?
We will
to-
submit it, Mr.
Submit it off before the day ends.
Chairman. We will.
Thank
and
you
as
very much.
consultant, Mr. Sonsa, will you be kind enough to share? Are you receiving any monetary benefits from SMNI?
Are you?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And would you be kind enough to detail to us how much you're receiving as consultant?
The record would speak for itself, Mr. Chairman. We will
Which
submit
is-
the record.
Can you
Um,
just tell us, since there's a record, just tell us.
It's a sizable amount, Mr. Chairman.
Which is
This is $1 million.
how much
$1 million
per
per month.
per month?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
So if the documents are there, Mr. Sonsa, can you,
Okay.
Mr. Sonsa, since the documents are there, can you be
Silence is requested. The Honorable J.J. Suarez
Yes.
has the floor.
I think you referred to some documents that you were looking at, Mr. Sonsa. Can you please furnish the?
Yes, we will,
Yes, okay.
Mr.
Because
Chairman.
we just wanted to determine whether your consultancy and how long you have been a consultant. Kasi we've been having these hearings for the past 3 weeks at ngayon lang po kayo lumitaw kaya medyo nakakagulat po ang pagdalo ninyo sa komitiba. But nevertheless, maraming salamat po sa mga ibinahagi ninyo.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Chair,
J.J. Suarez.
Mr. Chair,
The Honorable Toby Jang.
again with the indulgence of Congressman Gutierrez, kailan po nagsimula yung grievance committee tsaka yung internal ombudsman?
In a while, yes. Thank
Okay,
you.
so hindi po yung sagot ni Attorney Topacio yung sasagot dun sa
Opo.
mga tanong natin.
Because marami
particularly.
pong
Yeah, okay.
dapat sagutin si Pastor Quiboloy, as explained earlier, na the Honorable Jonathan Clement Avalos II of For Peace. He's here. Oh, welcome. And the Honorable Antonio Ferrer of the 4th District of Cavite. Just so that everyone know that I've already signed the attendance in this committee for the plenary. So it has been forwarded already to the majority floor leader. The Honorable Manuel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Short lang, Mr. Chair, given din I think many of our fellow members would also want to ask. Mr. Chair, kung i-replay po natin yung sagot kanina ng legal counsel, malinaw po yung naging tanong ko at yung sagot din po niya ay task ng executive pastor acting as corporation sole yung pag-administer ng mga properties ng KOJC. Pero ang nangyari, Mr. Chair, ngayon mula doon sa executive pastor na wala namang kinasasakontang issue ngayon, ay nalipat po yung task niya sa dating Pangulo. Kaya Mr. Chair, again, that brings more questions rather than answers sa komite.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, the
May I-
Honorable Manuel. Yes. Anyway, is there another question?
May I make the clarification, Mr. Chair, about the question of
Maybe Attorney Topacio, can you because maybe can we also rise so that yes, Attorney Ambrosio.
Mr. Chairman, may I also respectfully request that Executive Pastor Marlon Acobo be likewise sworn in because this is
Please.
his first time also, Your Honor.
Yes, please.
Please raise your right. This swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this congressional influence.
Thank you very much. Okay, Attorney Ambrosio.
As to the clarification with regards to the question of Congressman Manuel, so the scope of the appointment of former President PRRD is only in case of incapacity, disability, retirement, and other inability of the executive pastor and the board of administrators. So this is the appointment was made by the current executive pastor and the board of administrators, that in case something might happen, the former president of PRRD will be able to manage the properties of the KOJC.
Attorney Ambrosio, this is contingent to
Upon-
if something happens
Yes.
to whom?
To the current executive pastor and to the board of administrators,
Who is the executive pastor?
Pastor Marlon Acobo.
So if something happens to Pastor Acobo,
Yes.
then President Duterte
May take over to manage
May.
the properties.
the
Will
pres-
take over.
will take over.
Yes.
Okay. Because doesn't Pastor Acobo, doesn't he, wala ba ho siya assistant na pwede yung mag-take over?
This is, Your Honor, this was a management prerogative. It was the discretion of the executive pastor and the board of administrators that we will entrust the management of the properties of KOJC to former President Rodrigo Duterte.
If anything happens to, when you say anything happens, physically may mangyayari po sa kanya?
This pertains to any inability, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman. Yes,
Honorable
yes, I have question to Pastor Executive Mr. Acobo. Ilan taon na po kayo?
I'm 58, Your Honor.
Yeah, you look very fit. Si former president, ilan taon na po? More or less.
79, I think.
79. Kasi Mr. Chairman, if I may, kasi meron po akong friend na may edad na 60 plus, nagkaanak, okay? So yung mga kumpare niyang kinuha, may age bracket siya, ka-age niya, kumuha siya ng mas bata. Ano bang ibig sabihin dito? Ibig sabihin dito, yung mas bata and healthy, that can take care of yung son. So yung sa akin, I'm just wondering lang, bakit mas may edad na yung will can take over? Ano ba naging basis lang po natin dyan?
Your Honor, pwede bang magbisaya lang ko, no? Kasubuan ako ang sulti para ma-express na ako kung gustong isulti. Naman siguro tayo mga congressman din nga makasabot po sa akong isulti.
dali lang po. We will need a di ko kayo marunong kasi kailangan natin ang interpreter ho niyan.
Medyo nakakaintindi naman ako kahit paano. Okay.
Ang ibig niya sabihin, Mr. Chair,
Okay.
he is not well versed in Tagalog, so he will need somebody to interpret what he will be saying.
Who will
Mr. Chair, can I act as interpreter of Mr. Marlon Acobo?
Okay. Attorney Mark, you will interpret sentence by sentence.
Okay, Mr. Chair.
I can also interpret for him.
Inaani manggod ang hemtang, Your Honor, no?
Ito ang sitwasyon, Your Honor.
Senator Congressman Kumaren. Nganong gipili namo si former President PRRD na
Bakit pinili?
mahimong administrator sa Kingdom Properties despite sa iyahang edad?
Bakit pinili namin si
Ang
PRRD?
point nimo, Your Honor, is ang edad.
Patapusin mo ako. Bakit
Meron po kayo interpreter.
Okay.
Kaya kailangan
Bakit pinili
mag-focus
namin
kayo.
si PRRD?
Pastor Acobo, please address your answer to the chair, not to the member of the committee.
Sorry po,
Thank
sorry
you.
po.
Bakit pinili namin si PRRD despite sa kanyang edad?
Tungod kay si former President Rodrigo Duterte, taas ang iyahang eksperyensya, lawyer siya, labaw sa tanan, suod siya nga higala sa Kingdom Ministry.
Si PRRD, taas yung kanyang experience, abogado po siya, then malapit na kaibigan siya sa ministry.
Muna ang reason, Your Honor.
Yun ang dahilan.
Thank you very much, Pastor and Attorney Mark. Maraming salamat. Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
related lang po dun sa tanong.
Yes.
So is former President Duterte a member of the KOJC? At ano yung naging role niya po sa KOJC in the past and
Actually,
present?
Your Honor, dili siya member, pero ang iyahang stand sa Kingdom Ministry is more than a member. Tungod kay ang iyahang respeto sa ministry taas kayo. Sukat pa sa sinugdan.
Hindi siya member ng ministry, but yung kanyang respeto at stand sa ministry is more than a member.
Now, we will recognize the Honorable Paduano. Then we will now go into we will proceed with further interpretation. The Honorable Paduano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clear the previous motion, and was approved by this committee with regards to the contempt order, Mr. Chairman. We should have a second motion. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I move that we direct the Sergeant at Arms to coordinate with all enforcement agency, particularly the PNP, to bring Pastor Quiboloy in the House premises. So move, Mr. Chairman.
There's a motion by the Honorable Caraps Paduano. Any second?
Second.
Seconded by the Honorable J.J. Suarez, Honorable Pimentel, and the Honorable Senior Deputy Speaker Don Gonzales. The chair in objection, the motion of the Honorable Paduano to ask the Sergeant of Arms directing the Sergeant of Arms to bring Pastor Quiboloy to the House premises is hereby approved. We now proceed to the interpretation.
Just a point, just a follow-up.
The Honorable J.J. Suarez.
Insofar as the good attorney Topacio is law-abiding and has taken this oath as a lawyer, and insofar as you are going to see the good pastor tomorrow, maybe you can aid the Sergeant of Arms in the exercise of their duty. Kasi makikita naman kayo bukas, di ba?
Well, with all due respect, that would be a conflict, Your Honor. I hope you will respect the lawyer-client relationship.
Oh.
But I can advise him accordingly, Your Honor. In my capacity.
I was just, under the impression that, of course, you being a lawyer and this being a lawful committee hearing, and what we did was within the bounds of law, you might want to extend your assistance in the exercise of the duties of the committee.
Yeah, Your Honor, I believe that this committee or the House of Representatives is possessed of sufficient power to enforce its orders even without the assistance of this humble representation. But as a lawyer, of course, I will always advise my clients in accordance to my training in the law, Your Honor. That I can assure the Honorable Committee. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Ferdinand Topacio. Okay, any other question that any other
Mr.
member
Chair.
may have before we move for the we finally decide on this resolution? The Honorable Migs Ugrades is recognized. Attorney Migs.
Mr. Chair, just for the clarification of everyone, tama po ba na yung nakita po kasi natin sa news yung whole administrator. So right now, it's not in effect. Just to be clear for the body and the public that hindi pa administrator, Mr. Chair, yung pag-a-appoint po.
Yes. Expressed by Attorney Ambrosio, who was under oath, that he is not yet the administrator as we speak, and it is contingent to anything that might happen to Mr. Acobo.
Mr. Chair, if we could just have a copy of that also so that the committee will have a copy of which whatever would happen since yung executive pastor naman nandito and there's an appointment pending, if we could have a copy of the document for the
Yes.
said appointment, Mr. Chair.
Attorney Ambrosio.
Your Honor, we will submit.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, to SEC lang for the clarification of this process. Ano po ba ang proseso ng pag-appoint ng administrator pagdating sa corporation sole, since it's a different kind of corporation, it's a special kind of corporation na ang executive pastor lang naman ang mag-a-administer ng mga properties and manage on behalf of the members of the religious sect, Mr. Chair.
That's addressed to
The SEC.
SEC. You may reply.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. To address the question of Honorable Nograles, when an entity incorporates in the SEC as a corporation sole, in the articles of incorporation, they will already specify who is the executive pastor or the elder or the rabbi or the chief of that corporation sole. That's all.
Mr. Chair, with regard to appointing of an administrator, should the executive pastor be incapacitated, what is the process po, Mr. Chair?
Per our record with regard to KOGC, on December 16, 2022.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm just asking for a general process, not
yeah.
with relation to the KOJC, Mr. Chair.
A letter of appointment will be issued by the current executive pastor to his successor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to remind, since we're talking about the laws and the corporation code, given the gravity of what is happening with the media and everything, with regard to section 111 also of the revised corporation code, para lang umiwas po sa mga violations, Mr. Chair, in any encumbrance, selling, disposal of property by an administrator or executive pastor, kailangan po rin po ng court approval dito with regard to that. And I'm just more appealing na sana sumunod po ang KOJC, ang Suarasog, or especially KOJC sa mga ganitong aspeto, so that we won't be looking into further violations, and should there be any change, again with the consent also of Congress. Yun lang po, Mr. Chair, just to raise it as a way of reminding lang po the corporations on their procedural aspects para iwas na po sa mga violations na pwedeng mangyari po, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Honorable Migs Nograles, SEC, please take note of the statement of the Honorable Migs Nograles. Thank you. Thank you. So any other member that would like to speak for or against this measure? You have now the Honorable Gutierrez.
Yes, Mr. Chair, sorry, before we proceed po, just a few questions. Like I mentioned, we had some material questions that were left unanswered in the previous deliberations, and we'd like to take a crack at the theory of the good attorney Topacio that they might be able to answer po. So with the indulgence of this committee, may I proceed with my interpellation of the executive pastor?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, may I request that perhaps is the attorney Ambrosio capable of translating for Pastor Acobo? Yes. Okay, Mr. Chair. So that to keep it within KOJC, while we no doubt appreciate the interpretation skills of the good attorney Tolentino, we would like to have a separate para we're not confused where KOJC ends and where SMNI begins. So, Mr. Chair, may I ask the good Pastor Acobo, through the good attorney Ambrosio, in your GIS papers, may we begin? How long have you been with the KOJC?
Your Honor, nagsugod ko sa pakiguban kong pastor since 1985.
Your Honor, nagsimula po ako since 1985. Kipagsama kay Pastor since 1985.
Mr. Chair, I noticed the good pastor does not need a translator to understand my question. But
nakasabot ko.
Okay.
Okay, Your Honor, pero
you understand. You cannot express.
Ang akong gustong isulti.
You would prefer not to express in another language, or you are unable of expressing in another language?
mas prefer ko nga musulti og Bisaya, Your Honor.
He prefers to answer in Cebuano or
It is a
Bisaya.
preference. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for the record. So, Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask the good pastor, no? So since 1985, but his appointment as executive pastor was on what date specifically?
Nagsugod ang ako ang pagkahimong executive pastor, Your Honor. Atong time nga gipil upan na nako ang mga papers para sa Securities Exchange and Commission.
Nagsimula akong maging executive pastor nung pinirmahan ko yung mga papers for the Securities and Exchange Commission.
That was December 19, 2022. O pagka sunod nga tuig, January 4, 2023, giaprobahan sa SEC ang pagkahimo na kong executive pastor.
It started in December 19, 2022, and on January 4, 2023, it was approved by SEC. Your Honor, may I make a clarification? So, what Pastor Marlon is pertaining to is the amended articles of incorporation, since corporation souls are not required to submit general information sheets.
Okay, so we're now referring to the KOJC, Mr. Chair. But for the appointment, because, by the way, thank you, Pastor, for attending today. We would have hoped that you were with us from the start. But we were under the impression, I believe it was one of the representatives of SMNI, that Pastor Acobo took over in 2021. How can we...
2020.
2021 daw po yung naalala.
2022, Your Honor.
2022, nag-take over. So the mentioned appointment papers by Attorney Tolentino was based on what? May we ask, Mr. Chair, the representative of SMNI?
Your statement, well, his statement was
Chair.
2021.
If I'm not mistaken, of course, I could be wrong.
I have with me, Mr. Chair, the certificate of appointment of Brother Marlon B. Jacobo, signed by Pastor Apollo C. Quiboloy, dated December 19 of 2022.
Mr. Chair, may we ask the COMSEC? Yes. If I recall correctly, the previous hearings, it was alleged that it was sometime in 2021. May we check with the records of the, may we ask the committee to provide for the records of with the appointment papers? But probably after na lang po, no? Because there seems to be this was very distinct to me.
I think, Mr. Chair, I have to clarify. I was talking about SMNI, the participation of Pastor Apollo Quiboloy with respect to Suarasug Media Corporation, because Pastor Apollo Quiboloy was still a stockholder since in 2019, but in 2020 he is not anymore. In 2020, he's still is a stockholder of Suarasug Media Corporation. In 2021, he's also a stockholder of Suarasug Media Corporation. But in 2022, he already donated his share to Jesus Christ Workers Members Cooperative, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, sorry, just
That's
to
why, Mr.
clarify.
Chair, I submitted our position paper today, Mr. Chair, to give emphasis to our stand, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, we would have appreciated siguro po yung position paper weeks or days ago so that we can properly understand. The position paper submitted today and the hearing today, of course, we cannot consider whatever the contents are, but rest assured that we will be studying that after today po. No? So, Mr. Chair, so to clarify lang po, no? So according to Executive Pastor, the appointment in GIS papers for KOJC 2022 po. The appointment letter, can we have a reading again of the appointment, Mr. Chair?
Okay, Mr. Chair. The certificate of appointment of the Executive Pastor of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, dated December 19, 2022 at KJC Compound, Field Japan, Friendship Highway, Sasa, Davao City, signed by Pastor Apollo C. Quiboloy to
Brother Marlon B. Acobo, Mr. Chair. Acobo.
For KOJC.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So we have to clear with our records for what stood out distinctly was the representation by representatives of SMNI that there was a transfer in 2021. Because I remember this particularly, Mr. Chair, because we were discussing in GIS. Because
The GS, Mr. Chair, refers to the Swarsug Media
Yes,
Corporation,
for
not the
Swarsug.
Kingdom of Jesus Christ.
yes, Mr. Chair. So yun po, kasi what's particular to me, Mr. Chair, okay, first and foremost, we'd like to reiterate that the existence of KJC as sole, a corporation sole, is still under question as per the interpellation of the Honorable Nograles as affirmed by the SEC that there were questions as to the 2/3 voting. So we still have yet to receive a report from the SEC on that matter. But that's just to put it on record po, no, on question pa. But assuming that we will now proceed with the rules, supposedly, na ito ay corporation sole, Mr. Chair, our question with SMNI is that for September 2020, yun po yung submission ng GIS. And then April 2021, yung GIS, nandun pa rin po si Pastor Quiboloy. And it was both a stockholder and beneficial owner. I would assume that the beneficial ownership of Pastor Quiboloy does not come from his ownership of stocks, but of his influence and control of the corporation, as is per the rules of the SEC. But in the GIS of 2022 as of June submitted and 2023 as of May, he was no longer stockholder, neither was he beneficial owner, which would make sense for the appointment in December 2022. However, the GIS was submitted June 2022. So on the papers pa lang po ng GIS, wala na po si Pastor Quiboloy. But the appointment was made in December. Kaya how do we explain this incongruency, Mr. Chair?
Pwede ko muhatag og brief history nga nung nahimo kong executive pastor.
Can I give a brief history on how I became the executive pastor?
You allow that, pero kailangan mo masagot yung tanong, ha?
Oh,
Bakit ho, iba yung sa dokumento, iba yung kinikwento niyo na yun?
ganito po kasi inanim ni Your Honor. Ang plano ni pastor na ibiyaan na niya ang iyang pagka-executive pastor.
Ang plano ni pastor na
Yung
umalis na sa pagka-executive pastor,
nag-start ito 2015 pa po.
Okay.
And then the following year, 2014, tungod kay pagka 2015 na ami general meeting kauban sa tanang mga international o national leaders.
in 2015, we had a meeting with the leaders of KOJC.
Gi-announce na ni pastor na iya nang biyaan ang iyahang pagka-executive pastor.
Pastor Apollo already announced that he will leave his position as the executive pastor.
Ug iya na ning itugyan sa mga board of administrators.
And he will entrust this to the administrators.
Mr. Chair, very quickly.
2019, padayon sa, Your Honor, pwede kong padayon? Okay. 2019, giingnan ako ni pastor na ako sa succession plan sa Kingdom of Jesus Christ. 2019, naan ako sa succession plan na ako ang musunod sa iya.
In 2019, I was already in the succession plan.
Na-formalize ni Your Honor, niadtong nipirma ko sa tanang mga legal documents para sa SEC, December 19, 2022.
Intention pala yung 2016 kayo na. O bakit hindi ho kayo 2016 o sa 2019 binigyan ng kayo na sa mga dokumento? Bakit ho sa December sa 2023 pa pumasok po ang pangalan ninyo? 2020.
Your Honor, tungod kaya ng panahon na ako sa abroad, ang akong assignment nasa abroad. Na ako sa Middle East, na-assign o sa Tibok, Africa.
So, okay. So, okay.
Tapos na po yung pandemic.
Opo. Klaro po tayo dyan. So, ang hindi pa rin ho natin nasagot, yung tanong ko ni bakit nagre-reflect pa rin sa SEC documents na yung pangalan po ni Pastor Quiboloy nung siya sabi nyo kayo na. Ngayon siya sabi nyo nasa abroad kayo, hindi pa formal.
Your Honor, may we
Attorney.
ask the question to be repeated so that
Attorney,
it's clear
I,
in our part?
There's a inconsistency. I think the question, can you please just answer the question of the Honorable Gutierrez? Why does it reflect that it's still Pastor Quiboloy when he's now saying that it's not anymore Pastor Quiboloy?
Your Honor, if you are pertaining to the general information sheet of Suarasug
Yes.
in 2022, it was filed on June 2022. Therefore, Pastor was still the executive pastor at that time. However, he is no longer a stockholder. He is no longer the stockholder of Suarasug because he donated his shares to Jesus Christ Workers Members Cooperative.
When?
On GIS for June 27, 2022. And the appointment of Pastor Acobo happened on December 19, 2022.
Correct.
So-
But for the record purposes, there's no show of the transfer because the GIS still shows that this is a Pastor Quiboloy.
Yes, Your Honor. In fact, the amended articles was released or approved by SEC on January 4, 2023.
Correct. So that's what we have on record also. So it still doesn't answer why is it the name of Pastor Quiboloy still there when in SEC it's so as far as we're concerned for the entire year of 2022 it was Pastor Quiboloy.
For the entire year 2022, Your Honor, it was only on December 19 that the appointment of Pastor Apollo was provided or decided by the board.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, just a point of order. po, no?
Honorable
I don't know
Gutierrez.
if we have it in the rules. I'm sorry if I must write down at this point. No, Mr. Chair, the executive pastor was assigned abroad po, no? Perhaps we would appeal again that perhaps he would choose to express himself. I'm sure he's very capable in English. Because, Mr. Chair, for when the testimony, when the we invite our resource persons to ferret out the truth, as the SJJ said, when it is being courts through a colleague and an attorney at that, who has been also inputting her own answers in not as translation, nalilito po tayo kung which were the words of pastor and which are the words of the attorney. Mr. Chair, he did say it was only a preference. Perhaps he would consider expressing himself in a language understood by us all here.
Your Honor, no, gustuhon man ako, pero mas ma-express magud nako ang akong isulti kung akong gamiton ang akong pinulungan. Ay hinaot nga
Mr. Chair, with the kind volunteerism of Congresswoman Garin, she has offered to translate for us, no?
Attorney Mark, you might want to translate first.
Mr. Chair.
Because it was stated,
Hi.
I don't think she was listening. Yeah, Attorney Mark, kayo muna.
Ay gustuhin man niya magsalita ng Tagalog but he cannot express na anong komportable sa kanya.
So, Mr. Chair, whether or not we would accept, comfort or preference, luckily, the Honorable Garin has offered. This might be new for the committee po, no?
Yes.
But if we would accept that as our procedure going on, no? Parang we can separate rin yung testimony ni Attorney Ambrosio.
Yes.
Kasi kanina po, may translation sana for Pastor Acobo, pero may input naman sa GIS si Attorney Ambrosio, just to separate the two.
Thank you. The chair recognizes the other members of the committee, the Honorable Jojo Lara, who's here. Welcome, sir, of the 3rd District of Cagayan, and of course, the Honorable Janet Garin, 1st District, Iloilo. Meron po kayong sasabihin? before we now, the Honorable Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, and so okay, proceeding now back no, with that procedural question done. Yung tanong po natin dito is because there seems to be a disconnect between the GIS of the SMNI with the appointment of Executive Pastor Acobo and the internal workings of KOJC. Kasi po, okay, admittedly, let us say in 2019 there were informal plans to have Executive Pastor Acobo take over, and that this only took effect in December 2022. It does not explain for the change of the GIS in June 2022. Kasi po dito, natanggal na si Pastor Acobo. And still, well, another factor, we will ask, natanggal na po dito si Pastor Quiboloy. But still, Pastor Acobo was not inputted there. Kaya nga po yung tanong namin sa SEC, which they said, wala naman pong beneficial ownership portion in the documents received by SEC. So that's another issue that we have po, no? Just to recall, para sa lahat natin, sa lahat sa atin dito, there is a difference in the GIS submitted before this committee and the GIS submitted before the SEC. So the SEC could not also clarify kung ano po yung beneficial ownership. So going back po, no, though there were plans for Executive Pastor Acobo to take over in 2019 and this only took effect in December 2022, it does not explain kung bakit wala na po si Pastor Quiboloy in June of 2022. Unless the GIS was already reflecting changes without the proper appointment papers. Mr. Chair, maybe ask the explanation from the good pastor.
Actually, kana nga issue, Your Honor, naamang ko na sa, di ba, sa SMNI, ang GIS, kana nga panahon, siya pa ang executive pastor.
Okay, the Honorable Garin, may want to translate.
In English or Tagalog. During the time, he was still the executive director. He was still the
Executive
pastor.
Sa pag-submit, ma'am, Your Honor,
When it was submitted,
June, sa GIS, June 27, 2022, si Pastor Apollo Quiboloy, siya pa ang executive pastor.
so when it was submitted, June 27, 2022, Pastor Quiboloy was still the executive pastor.
Opo.
Mr. Chair, then why was he not beneficial owner in June 2022?
Nga nung wa man siya na beneficial owner sa 2022.
Yes, Attorney Ambrosio.
Okay, so Your Honor, Pastor Apollo was not included in the 2022 GIS of Suarasug because he does not control the operations of Suarasug, and at the same time, it was the period wherein KOJC, the executive pastor, would want not to involve itself in commercial transactions. So that's why during this period, all control was given to Suarasug because they have their own board of directors. So that's the reason, Your Honor.
Mr. Chair, of course, we'll have to accept that as the reasoning, but it is highly suspect because for the years 2022 and 2023, KJC still had 53.4% ownership, not including the indirect ownership they had through Phoebus, which had 46.2%. So if the reasoning is to divest, I think that would have done through stockholders. Now, Mr. Chair, the question here, and if that were the case, is it not his being beneficial ownership of 2020 and 2021, in which he was still there, was because he was executive pastor? Therefore, it follows in 2022, when he was still executive pastor, he still should have been beneficial owner. And not only that, after 2022, Executive Pastor Acobo is nowhere to be found in the beneficial ownerships as executive pastor for 2022 nor 2023. So, Mr. Chair, this only supports what we have been inclined to believe, that there is confusion in the papers being submitted before this committee under Section 12 on reportorial requirements, made worse by the fact that the documents submitted here is different from the documents submitted with the SEC. So it brings to focus again, Mr. Chair, the issue of whether SMNI, this is no longer KOJC, SMNI is faithfully fulfilling its obligation and duties under the franchise of privilege granted to it by this body, by this August Hall. So, Mr. Chair, one question. We'll move on from the GIS portion now. I have a question on section 4 and 7. Recently, we've come to the knowledge that one of your star talents, independent contractors, was found guilty of indirect contempt. Mr. Chair, may we find out from SMNI if there has been any action on their ethics board ba yun, or remedial board, or disciplinary board?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask, what is the who is the talent? Is
Mr. Chair, si Miss Badoy.
Miss Badoy and Eric Celis, they have their program kasama Laban Kasama ang Bayan is no longer is suspended as of today, Mr. Chair.
As of today?
No, since February, Mr. Chair.
Since February, Mr. Chair. So, because
you can check that through
throughout
our
the records,
even
Mr.
on
Chair.
social media, Mr. Chair. We have no more Laban Kasamaan Bayan on in our social media, and including but of course there is Laban Kasamaan Bayan in rally in Liwasan ng Bonifacio.
Same name, no relation.
No relation.
No relation. It's a branding thing now,
Yes.
Mr. Chair. Okay. So, Mr. Chair, starting February, wala na po yung Laban Kasama ang Bayan.
Suspended.
Suspended kahit sa social media.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Our independent contractors are in no way now working with SMNI.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, yun lang, Mr. Chair. Thank you for that answer. Going back po, no? So, just to summarize, because I have now concluded my questioning here. For the consideration of this body, the violations that we have found are on sections 4 on responsibility to the public and section 7 for self-regulation. In relation to the numerous allegations, indictments, or findings of fake news, red tagging, we're also citing section 10 on the provisions for sale, lease, transfer of ownership. On sections 11 for dispersal of ownership requirement. Section 10 and section 11 carry with them ipso facto provisions for their revocation. And section 12, which was just highlighted today, all the more because we could not get the proper answer on the reportory requirements. So I submit to this body, Mr. Chair, and I request that we consider my bill that is pending before the body. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Gutierrez.
Can we recognize Mr. Chair?
The Honorable Mark Tolentino.
Attorney Mark Tolentino, Mr. Chair, all the questions of the good Congressman Gutierrez is already answered, Mr. Chair, in our position paper. Can I explain in details, Mr. Chair, by reading our position paper, Mr. Chair?
Attorney Mark, since you've stated earlier that that is just a summary of all previous statements that you have made, which is still before already with the committee, then we have that already on record.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So I don't think you still need more time to express what you have already stated in the previously. But just be rest assured that as far as the Honorable Gutierrez is concerned, it has been remained unanswered, and he's still in a state of confusion as far as your answers are concerned. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Chair.
Any other member? The Honorable Pancho, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, I'm just wondering, even surprised, kasi Pastor Acobo was appointed by Pastor Quiboloy as trustee. Mr. Executive Pastor. Di po ba nakapagtataka? He cannot express himself in English, in Tagalog. Pero siya po yung chosen one. Ano po very special characteristic o special kay Pastor Acobo?
Ma'am, it's a management prerogative na ni pastor na siya ang mupili kinsa ang gustong mupuli sa iya, whether makasulti og English o dili.
So it's
That is
Pastor
the-
Quiboloy's prerogative based on management skills, not dependent on the mastery or the art of speaking either in Tagalog or English.
Thank you po, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, ma'am.
Proceed. Okay, so are there any other questions for or against this measure? The Honorable Franz
Mr. Chair.
Castro.
Yung tungkol lang po sa SMNI, no? So, iba po yung sa KOJC, no? Yung mga trustee doon. And of course, with the SMNI. So, gusto ko lang itanong, Mr. Chair, dahil ang I mean, yung stockholder na KOJC, tama ba? Stockholder ang KOJC sa SMNI. And KOJC, Mr. Chair, is a church, di ba? So, church siya. So, tanong ko lang, Mr. Chair, kung nagbabayad po ba ang SMNI ng tax since ang majority stockholder ay church. So, paano po ba yan? Siguro sa BIR, Mr. Chair. So, siguro masasagot po ni Attorney Mark Tolentino kung paano ba yung gano'n na merong component ng church as a stockholder ng SMNI, and then yung SMNI ay in a commercial business, di ba? O sa business siya ng broadcasting.
Mr. Chair, it is not the Kingdom of Jesus Christ who is the stockholder of Swarasug Media Corporation, but it is the executive pastor of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, the name above every name. So, under the latest 2022 GIS, Mr. Chair, and also 2023, with respect to the taxes, we complied all the BIR regulations, payment, and we can present that to this honorable body, our income tax return of Swarasug Media Corporation, Mr. Chair. And it is open book. You can ask the BIR whether or not we complied all the tax requirement, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Mr. Chair. So, ano rin po ba yung yung executive pastor as stockholder doon sa SMNI, Mr. Chair, yung benefits niya from that? So, paano po ba yon as a major stockholder po doon sa
Mr. Chair,
na
if I
executive
may.
pastor, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, with due courtesy to the Honorable Franz Castro, just a quick interjection, Mr. Chair, if I may. Because SMNI is the business name, but the corporate name is actually Swarasug. So maybe for reference, because it's on the records, if the Honorable Castro will be amenable, all her reference to Sunshine Media Network International earlier be changed to Swarasug Media Network International.
Your Honor, may I answer for the question of Honorable Castro? So as to KOJC, aside from being a stockholder of Swarasug, KOJC is also a block timer. So we broadcast spiritual programs through Swarasug, and in case there will be income, dividends may be declared and may be distributed to KOJC as a stockholder. But as of record, there are no dividends declared since based on the decision of the board of Swarasug.
So, Mr. Chair, linawin ko lang, so ibig sabihin, so walang kinikita dito yung KOJC doon sa SMNI.
As of the moment, Your Honor, KOJC has not received dividends from Swarasug.
For Franz Castro. Any other question by any other member? If there's none, no other question, the Honorable Johnny Pimentel.
Mr. Chair, this is already the 5th hearing that we have conducted. And 6? Okay. So, 6 na hong hearing ang ginawa natin dito. We have already heard all sides pertaining to this subject matter. We have discussed thoroughly all the pertinent provisions of Republic Act 11422. We exhausted already all arguments that needed to be discussed. And Mr. Chair, the 6 hearings that we have conducted, this committee, I believe, was able to establish violations of Swarasug to their franchise. And may I repeat what has been stated by the author, Representative Gutierrez. First and foremost, we have seen or we have established that they were in violation of Section 4, responsibility to the public, which we have already thoroughly discussed, which I will not discuss anymore. Section 10, the sale, lease, transfer, grant of use of tract or assignment of franchise. We were able to establish that there was a change of ownership from Kingdom of Jesus Christ. In 2020, they reported in their GIS that KOGC owned 95% of Swarasug. However, in 2022, as per their GIS, the shares of KOGC was diluted to 46% and it was transferred to Phoebus Global Holdings, I believe. So clearly there was a transfer of ownership, and under Section 10, they should report this to Congress and or rather ask permission from Congress. And once the transfer is consummated, they should report it to Congress within 60 days, which they did not do. Now, under Section 11, we have also established that they were also in violation of this pertinent provision, dispersal of ownership. It is very clear that in the life of their franchise, they should offer to Filipino citizens at least 30% of its outstanding stock. However, for the past 29 years on which they have been operating, not a single stock has been offered to Filipino citizens. And lastly, Section 12, which is the reportorial requirement. So, Mr. Chair, klarong-klaro ho, although of course, the legal counsels of Swarasug will oppose our findings. They have their own interpretation also of the law. But I believe that this committee has found sufficient grounds to revoke their franchise. On this note, Mr. Chair, this representation would like to move for the approval of House Bill number 9710, an act revoking the legislative franchise granted to Swarasug Media Corporation. So move, Mr. Chair.
There is a motion. Approval of House Bill 9710. Any second?
Second the motion, Mr.
Duly
Chair.
seconded by the Honorable Pancho. Any objections? The chair in objections. House Bill number 9710 is approved as with no amendments. May I suspend the hearing to direct the committee secretary to prepare the committee report. Session suspended.
So, mga kababayan, nakita ninyo ang decision. Ang decision nila, conclusion nila ng committee ay aprubahan pa yan sa plenary. Ibig sabihin ng plenary yung session na kung saan lahat ng membro ng House of Representatives o Kamara ay nandun. Isang guni sa kanila, pagbuto-butuhan nila kung i-carried over nila yung decision ng committee on legislative franchise na dapat tanggalan ng prangkisa ang SMNI o Sunshine. Sun na is ON na, hindi is UN. Sunshine Media Network, SMNI, Media Network Incorporated. So ano kasunod niyan? Tapos yung report, isusumite yung report sa kabuuan, lahat ng congressman ay magmi-meeting. So, kung magmi-meeting sila, sa kabuuan, aprobahan yan. Kung ma-aprobado, i-implement na ngayon yan. So, paano pag-implement? Ito lang nakikita sa pag-implement. Pwede ba maipatupad ng National Telecommunications Commission yung
Session
decision nila?
resumes.
Yun ang tanong.
I have in multiple sessions
Patuloy,
the
antayin muna
draft
natin.
committee report on House Bill 9710. So again, on this note, Mr. Chair, I move for the approval of the committee report. So move, Mr. Chair.
There's a motion, duly seconded, the chair in objection, committee report is, there's a second. Second by the Honorable Pancho, second by the Honorable Ferrer and the Honorable Aquino.
Manuel.
The Honorable Manuel. The chair in objections, committee report is adopted.
Mr. Chair,
I think the Honorable Tontine has something to say.
hopefully, Mr. Chair, sana before you will make any voting, Mr. Chair, I'd like to request a time or chance to explain our side, Mr. Chair. And before you consider your voting, I'd like to request all the members to just read our position paper, Mr. Chair, and consider our position paper, because in pursuant to the due process clause, Mr. Chair, give us chance to explain and consider also our position paper before making any voting, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you, the Honorable Tortino. The vote has already been,
I know, Mr. Chair, that's why it's
the vote
useless
has
for
already
me.
been casted.
That's why
And
it's
there's an approval, and we take note of your request, but I just try to inform you, because of you submitted your position paper 30 minutes before this hearing.
That's why, Mr.
We
Chair.
had no time to distribute all of that to all the members. So after this hearing, we will be giving all members a copy of
But if
the position paper that you wrote, which is basically a summary of everything that you said in the previous hearings as you manifested earlier.
Mr. Chair,
Kaya po nagsabing, lahat yun nasabi nyo na eh.
our position
Opo.
paper will become useless if you have you admit, Mr. Chair, that you have no more time to study and make a voting. That's why I'm asking, before you vote, Mr. Chair,
But
at
earlier,
least 1 week, Mr. Chair, to give all the members a chance to read our position paper, Mr.
Attorney,
Chair.
Mr. Chair,
no, Attorney, wait.
if I may.
Yes. 30 minutes before this hearing started. I mean, let's be also fair, because there's no way for us to be able to distribute and for all members to study that. First of all, your position paper was just basically things that you already said in the past. So we've taken note of that. The
Our- Our request, Mr. Chair, is based on the due process clause of the Philippine Constitution, and we believe the franchise of SMNI is still protected by the due process clause of the Philippine
Definitely,
Constitution.
that's why that hearing, 6 hearings. We said 5. You corrected us earlier. You said it was 6 hearings, not only 5 hearings. Thank you for the correction. And I think that is already very clear as far as our wanting to give this process to observe due process in this particular hearing. Palagi ko naman po, November pa ho natin pinag-uusapan, Marso na po na yun, ang dami na po natin pagkakataon, i-submit po lahat yan. And it is sad to note that you submitted this document to us 30 minutes before this hearing,
Mr. Chair,
which we find truly unfair.
we
Thank
submit to
you.
the sound
Mali pala
discretion
yan. Bobo
of
naman
this
ang
honorable
abogado,
committee,
Martin.
but we still
Magkalagay mo
stand
sa
with our position, Mr.
consideration.
Chair.
Your stand is requested. Your stand is noted, and we request that the COMSEC be directed to submit distribute all those documents
Attorney Mark
submitted
Tolentino.
30 minutes today,
Attorney Tapasio,
30 minutes
nabubuo na
before
kayo.
this hearing. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Hindi
very short.
Yeah,
naman
Mr. Chair.
para consideration.
Yeah, Mr.
The
Chair.
Honorable Janet Karin.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, for the information of Attorney Mark Tolentino, I believe with the permission of the chair and the August body, the position report, the position paper can actually be submitted to all members of Congress. Anyway, after the committee report, this will still be tackled in the plenary. And for that reason, Mr. Chair, I believe there is still ample time for all members of Congress to review the position paper as submitted by the legal counsel of SMNI. And so with that, Mr. Chair, I believe it will be fair for everybody to pursue the line of discussion that the Honorable Chairman was earlier stating.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Garin. So again, I direct the committee secretary to please submit and furnish all members of this committee and of course our House Secretariat a copy of their position paper for distribution to all members. Maybe a hard copy and a soft copy should be given to them. Thank you. The Honorable Attorney Tomasio.
Mr. Chair, thank you again for this opportunity.
Yes,
Mr. Chair, very briefly, while recognizing the powers of this committee to hold a person in contempt, may I make a final appeal, Mr. Chair, to defer the implementation of the contempt order until after I have advised my client. That is a very humble request from this representation. Just a few days, and maybe we can submit something to clarify our position. And then if it's still the pleasure of the body to continue with it, and then we will abide by it, Your Honor. Just a deferment, not a revocation of the order of contempt, Your Honor. Just a few days, if this committee can find it in its hearts, Your Honor.
Mr. Chairman.
Honorable Paduano.
And what we expect in that 3 or 5 days? What do we expect? Because
I will, as I intimated to this honorable body, because I cannot lie to it, I'm under oath. I will be seeing my client tomorrow, and I will try to advise him with respect to the order, Your Honor. I will give it my best good faith effort, and I say this not only under my oath before this committee, but under my oath as a lawyer and as a member of the Philippine Bar. Thank you, Your Honor.
so the day after tomorrow, we will expect you and Pastor Quiboloy to be present in
I
Congress.
will advise him.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that will be if you ask me about the consideration, that will be the requirements for us to differ.
Well, of course, I cannot, with respect to that, I cannot speak for the good pastor, but Your Honor, I will be seeing him and I will be advising him accordingly, Your Honors.
Attorney Tomasio, let's make this clear.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so we will 5 days. So
Yes, Your Honor.
5 days from now, if we do not hear from you, then we can now implement.
Yes, Your Honor. Whether whatever the result is, out of courtesy to the chairman,
Yes.
I will seek an audience with the honorable chairman to report to him. Your
Okay.
Honor, as a matter of courtesy.
So there's no, yes, thank you very much. Anyway, so there's no withdrawal, no deferment. All we're asking is the implementation. So kung pwede, we wait for 5 days, we hear from you. I think that's the request, ha? I think let's be clear as kung anong
Yes,
huli
yes, Your
request
Honor.
nyo.
This is clear to this
Okay.
representation,
Yes.
Your Honor.
Mr. Chair, it will be implemented on March 18, that is Monday.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, the March 18 will be the
March 18.
final.
huling
We
araw.
have to hear before, honor before March 18.
Minister
Honorable Pimentel.
This is only a food for thought for all of us. Although it's hypothetical, however, Attorney Topacio might be asking for a furlough, for a 5-day furlough, but we know very well that Pastor Quiboloy at this point in time is already a flight risk. So baka naman ang humihingi ni Pastor Quiboloy to give time so that what I mean, Attorney Topacio, humihingi ng palugit para makaalis na si Pastor Quiboloy out of the country. Hindi po ba there are already rumors? So it would be a dangerous precedent on our part. Yun lang, Mr. Chair. I think dapat pag-isipan natin to our colleagues, if you give 5 days, he can easily, we know that Pastor Quiboloy has a fleet of planes. Anytime pwede siyang umalis. Unless, of course, that we issue or we request a whole departure order from immigration, considering that we have already issued a contempt order and there is already a request for a search warrant, or rather an arrest warrant from the Sergeant of Arms, and then there is a pending again subpoena or contempt from Senate. So dalawang chamber ito, hindi po natin maalis yung Atty. Topacio that at this point in time si Pastor Quiboloy nag-iisip na rin niya na tatakas. Kaya hindi na nga nagpapikita. Even sa social media, he issues statement incognito. So, yun lang po ang dapat pag-isipan po natin, Mr. Chair.
Po hearing natin. Pwede po ba after your hearing tomorrow, can we hear from you?
Nasa Davao po ako. I'll be back on Thursday, Your Honor.
Yeah, but
Mr. Chair,
I can call Your Honor.
you can call us. You can call us when on Thursday.
Yes, Your Honor.
Today's Tuesday.
Yes, Your
You meet with him Wednesday. Thursday, you can.
Mr. Chair, but
At the latest Friday, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
yes, Tony Topacio said earlier that he will be meeting with Pastor Quiboloy tomorrow. So why will we give him 5 days? Siguro pinagalan until tomorrow.
Okay, we'll give you up to Thursday.
Your
Fair
Honor,
enough.
with respect to the apprehension that you will be pleading, there's already a lookout bulletin, Your Honor, issued, directed from the DOJ to the immigration.
Okay,
So,
that's why.
and
And maybe we can also say that if he wanted to really leave, he would have been. He would have left already.
yes, actually, Your Honor, I was about to say that. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
Your Honor, could you give me at least until Friday?
Okay, we will give you the deadline with the permission of the movement and those that have seconded. Do you have any objections to giving him up to Friday? If there are none, then therefore your request is granted that the implementation will commence after Friday. On Friday.
I will personally call on the Honorable Chairman to report.
Yes, and if you wish to write the committee a letter, you may feel free to do so.
I thank you, Your
And
Honor.
if you can do it earlier than Friday, it will be much appreciated.
Yes, not later than Friday. It
Yes.
would be earlier, Your Honor.
Yes. Thank you very much.
We
Okay.
appreciate the gesture of the committee, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Okay. So
Okay.
that is clear that the
Klaro.
contempt charges stay.
Pangatlong warrant
but,
of arrest.
we will give them
Eh,
3
Quiboloy.
days after his one-on-one meeting with Pastor Quiboloy in Davao.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Your
very
Honor.
much.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move to adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn, duly seconded. The chair no objection. This session is adjourned.
Okay. Thank you. Congratulations mga congressmen. Saan si Si Joseph Dionisio. Wala na yung kwan mo, idol mo. May pangatlong warrant of arrest na. Dako, hanggang Friday lang binigay kay Joseph. Kaya kay Ferdi Topacio. Sigurado naman ako hindi na masusuko yun. Kaya sa Sabado, implement na ang warrant of arrest. Ang kay Lisa, hanggang ngayong araw na lang, kay Lisa Huintiveros. Bukas, sigurado ako hindi naman nila makumply yung 8 pirma. So, ngayon, 2 warrant of arrest sa Senate at saka si House of Representatives. Pangatlo, ang pinakaunang warrant of arrest, yung warrant of arrest na inisyu sa California Central Circuit Court na inisyu ng judge sa pinalabasan ng judge sa California. So ngayon, ito na yung mga kiko mga kiko ni Duterte. Kiko Jonathan Dionisio. Wala na, amo mo. Wala na. Kahit ano pang tawag mo sa akin assuming senator, I would rather prove to you that I will really run for senator at hindi ako kagaya sa mga sinasabi mo sa nandadaya sa election, gumagamit ng Smartmatic. Basta hindi ako gamit Smartmatic, panalo. Pilitin ko manalo. Pero kung talo, wala tayong magagawa. Ganun na kasimple. Dionisio idol mo si Kabulok, pati si Juan, nagde-deny ka pa Idol mo yan pati si Duterte Sino pag isa dito yung lagi tatakas talaga, nagdududa si Congressman Pimentel. Baka tatakas talaga. Yung yung boss mo na si DDS, si Duterte, ay siyang totoong may-ari ng Suaresog, SMNI. Lumalabas siya talaga totoong may-ari. So naniwala na kayo sa akin na talagang totoong may-ari? O ngayon na, ladies and gentlemen, patay na naman si Quiboloy. Hindi na-isyuhan na siya ng contempt order tsaka warrant of arrest. At i-implementar ito, ipapatupad ito pagkatapos ng Friday. Ngayon, siyempre malabo na rin yan kahit anong sulat, anong tawag ni Topacio is papasurrender daw niya. Sabi niya, pangako niya, ipapasurrender niya si Quiboloy. Hindi mangyari yun. Hindi nga siya susurrender sa Senate eh. Ang problema, maunahan siya ng Senate, Joseph Dionisio. Paano yan? Yung mga amo mo, sira na talaga yan, Duterte. Si Duterte, ginagamit niya lang na nagplanderos, ginagamit niya lang na disguise or excuse, ginagamit niya panlaba, yung KOJC. Imperatrice Gadiel, senator ng Kabunyog. Si Jonathan De Lima sa tamang korte. Tamang korte, anong tamang korte? Maling korte. Korte na korte nyo lang. Dito ang pinakamagandang korte, ang korte ng House of Representatives saka Senado. Kasi nakikita lahat, nakapapanood lahat ng tao. Yung korte, gusto dalhin masikreto para hindi marinig ng tao. Yan ang ayaw ko sa korte dito. Sa totoong kwento. Lumi Pinugo, yes, shout out. Salamat. At tayo panalo. Panalo na naman tayo. Tayo mga api lagi. Ngayon nanalo na rin tayo. Sino pa? Si The Lone Wolf. Si Tevis at Bantag. Yun na lang inantay natin. Hoy! Mr. Secretary Bonjing Rimulya. Asan na si Bantag? Dapat mag-resign ka na. Kung hindi mamahuli si Bantag, resign! 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 Anthony Yubingo, wagi tayo. Yes, wagi. Palakpakan sa lahat. Palakpakan sa lahat. Lahat ng lumalaban para sa katarungan. Sa laban sa rapist na yan. So si Jiwi, baka dumating ang time na mag-away na si Digong at Quiboloy. Siyempre, pag-awayan nila pera. Marikoy, contempt order. Hindi Quibulok, naka-ready na. Hindi lang contempt order, warrant o maris pa. Tapos si Maricoy, si Imperatrice Gadiel, Rinaldo Tiason, aba, wala kawawa ka, Jonathan Dionisio, kaluluoy mangin si mo ba? Ba, naluoy ko si Ibo. Ramon Eugenio, one down. Dapat sunod niya si Duterte na mahuli. Si Sara, si ICC naman, si Bato, si Bungo. Dapat mahuli na sila si Alexander Aguirre. Si Vitaliano Aguirre. At mahuli na rin kung sino mga ibang mga nakis. Pati si Gordon, damay dyan eh. Pati si Pacquiao kasi silang nagtanggal kay De Lima sa Senate hearing na mga pinapatestigo yung mga testigo laban sa DDS na nag-expose kagaya sila ni Matabato, Edgar Matabato at saka si Arturo Las Cañas. Antonio Yubienko, yes, wagi tayo. Believe it's true. Patalsikin na yan si Topacio. Kawawa naman si Topacio. Ang ba, kinakita nyo, napakabubo ng mga abogado ng SMNI, no? Pasensya ka na, Rolex Suplico. Napakabubo nyo talaga. Dapat, kung ako sa inyo, gumawa ako ng, Your Honor, Chairman, Mr. Chairman, may we be heard? Bakit? We will formalize our motion for reconsideration against the order of the decision of the committee. Dapat ganun ginawa nyo para maipasok nyo ngayon ang inyong position paper. Kaya lang, wala. Nga, anong klase? Dapat ang magaling na abogado at the flick of the fingertips, at the picking from the air, kuha kagad ang rason. Kita mo mga kapwa ko mga abogado rito, abogada. Si Attorney Rolando Bautista, magandang gabi. Magandang hapon pa na. Hindi ko na banggitin. Siguro si Attorney Emmanuel Saez, si Attorney Emmanuel Topacio. Kamag-anak niya, pero magaling na Topacio to. Si Attorney Bombit Abad. Magaling na Abad to, hindi yung Anthony Abad na People's Initiative. Ito, nakikita niyo kung paano ito. Kita niyo, napakasimple. Kahit sinong abogado, simple. Pag trial lawyer ka, kagaya ko, mga trial lawyer, mga pau, mabilis yan mag-isip. Pag mag-isip ko anong solusyon, kagaya ng solusyon, hindi man na sila nakapagsabi, Your Honor, kagaya kay Ruben Padilla, I move. Mabuti pa si Ruben Padilla, I move. Nakapag-isip. Pero ang dapat na ginawa ng mga abogado nila, kung talagang magaling kayong abogado, kagaya sa akin, nag-raise na kayo, Your Honor, may I be recognized? Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized? Why? We want to express formally our motion for reconsideration against the decision of the committee approving the contempt order and the issuance of the warrant of arrest against Apollo Quiboloy. Dapat trabaho ni ano yun. Dapat trabaho ni Topacio yun kasi si Topacio ang personal lawyer ni mahina pala si Attorney Perdi Topacio. Oh, boxing. Hinabang mo ko dati boxing. Boxing tayo. Wala ka pala eh. Ubobs na abogado. Wala ka pala eh. Okay. So, Antonio Bengo, Believe It's True, Maricoy, nag-ala Robin Hood si Tupacyo. Delaying tactic. Tama ka. Huwag ka magkapareho pala, no? Jonathan Dionisio, LOL, korte na yung, ay, kabubo mo naman, Jonathan. Ay, mag-study ka nga. Kaya imo ginahambal, puro binango. Ay, sus. Hindi pinag-usapan ng Congress, hindi naman yung contempt na sa korte. Eh, kamango. Isi, imo blaw. Lone Wolf, si Tibis at Bantag, hindi na sinusurrender, no? Maricoy, SMNI, revoke na. Eh di antayin. Ang proseso po niyan, aprobahan pa yan sa Committee of the Whole, yung plenary yung tinatawag. So lahat ng congressman magbuto-buto pa doon. Hindi pa yan, committee report lang yan, committee approval lang yan. Pagtapos, siyempre yung committee magre-recommenda sa NBank. Yan ang pag-usapan lang. So bantayan natin yun, i-cover natin yun. So si Lumi Pinugo, shout out, no? Engineer Toto Kausing, Emperatrice Gadiel, Senator, ang Kabunyog team, mabuhay ang Bunyog Party. Nakaisa na naman tayo. Rosalina Loresca, good afternoon. Isagani Soreda, Bobby Bordarais, BLNSG, baka repende niya mga idol kay Quiboloy, Ronel Santiago, Kiko Man, Emperatrice Gadiel, watching from Zurich, Switzerland. Yes, Senator, I am supporting po. Salamat po. Suportan mo ako, nakabunyog Senator, at lahat ng bunyog party list po. Totoong party list ng tao. So, Jonathan Dionisio, ipakulong si Quiboloy. Hulihin na nga, hindi na ipakulong. Hulihin na, ikukulong. Hindi iba ipakulong kaysa ikukulong. So, Tiger Lily, wala na estupasyo. Wag na kayo makinig dyan. Tapos, Aris Macabulos, may Senator Katuto. Yun, salamat. Don Tarangas, Attorney Topacio will call personally the chairman that Quiboloy is out of the country. Na-anticipate na ni Don Tarangas. Loren Santiago, Jonathan Dionisio, ano masasabi mo? Wala na. Talo na si Jonathan Dionisio. Sports game lang ha. Sport game lang to sa atin. Kaya palakpak ka na lang sa amin. Huwag ka magalit, ha? Bert Mirati, nakakainis Saba, bukas ng hulihan. Ano po ito? Saba, bukas ng hulihan. Oh, nakakainis. O di kaya, bukas ng hulihan, kaya ano naman yun? Sa warrant of arrest naman ni Risa Ontiveros. Ronel Santiago, iyak na si Quiboloy. Lisa Fiolino, tama. Napunta na kayo ng punta sa rally, mga bastos. O wala na, paano? Pupunta doon sa rally si Duterte. Titingnan natin kung pupunta sa rally si Quiboloy. Girl of Dream, dami yung niloko pero hindi pa rin sapat. Kukunti pa rin kayo. Hindi kayo kasing people power. Tiger Lily, wag nyo ng pagbigyan. Lira Escalona, Hospicio Morato, they are buying time to escape. Kiko Man, Bert Mirate, Ronel Santiago, Kiko Man, Don Tarangas, Topacio is client, Lisa Fiolino, Tiger Lily, Kiko Man, the Lone Wolf, Lisa Fiolino, Lapulito Brucal, Lisa Arsa Escalona, Jonathan Dionisio, Ronel Santiago, sino pa? Don Tarangas, All Walks of Life Dogs, Kiko Maan, Ronel Santiago, sino pa? Lapulito Brucal, Crisanto Pokita, ang dapat sa taong hindi nagbigay galang at respeto sa Kongres. pinaparesto. Ayan. Gabs, Jeremiah. Si Tupacyo, tahimik parang lubat. Tapos, hindi ko nabasahin. Kawawa naman si Jonathan Dionisio. Huwag ko na basahin yung sa sinabi mo. Jimaka, kaya Sunshine Network, si Gibbs ang anak, son, daw ng ama, di siya pa rin ang may control. Edgardo G. Torres, yehe, dyan mo na po mauwi yan si Senator Toto. Salamat po. Isara na SMNI. Bobby Bordaraya, taga New pa, taga inyo po sa Bato page. Naaresto po si Quiboloy. Nakaupo yan sa wheelchair, paawa effect, kunwari na may sakit para house or mansion arrest po yan. Siyempre, hindi siya house arrest. Bakit malaki? Mansion ang kanya. So, mansion arrest. Tama ka talaga. Mansion arrest. Si Jay Heaven. Si Gibbs naman sa Senate Abangan. Antonio Arubang Jr. Itong pangyaring ito parang walang pinagkaiba doon sa COVID-19. Yung supplier ba yon? Na Chinese na din ang marunong magtagalog or English. Lalo sa Parmali, si Lincoln Ong. Tapos si Lapolito Brocal. At saka sino? Sino may tinuturo na drug lord? Nakalimutan ko pangalan niya. So si Jack sino ba yung Chinese na yun pagkisulat nyo nga. Yung Chinese na bata ni Duterte. Liro Asa Escalona, Liza Fialina, Ronald Santiago, Julie Lopez, Enigma, Francisco Antonio Mabunga, Ronald Santiago, Bobby Bordarais, Julie Lopez, sino pa? Okay, Dos James, Romel Santiago, Tiger Lily, Jaime Isaberal, si Ronel Salvador, Santiago, Edgar Torres, Jonathan Dionisio, Salve Villalba Benitez, Melchor Cheng, Ronel Santiago, Francisco Antonio Mabunga, huwag na si Jonathan Dionisio, marami siyang all walks of life. Jerica Longstead, sino pa? Perdi Eder, Lira Aisa Escalona. Oh. So, Feli Bautista Saplaco. Sino pa? Lisa Fiolino, Jerica Longstead, Paul Tri Bautista. Tinanggalan na ng gun. Iyon ang decision ng plenary. Okay? So, Irene Galincheng, magandang hapon na Irene. Lisa Fiolino, Benz Ruiz, Kiko Man, Ricky Recto, Quiboloy Paulanan, Big Cat, Congress Mahabang Kapulungan. Tapos, sino pa? Siete Panorep, si Bert Mirati, Eric Gampes, si Eden Au, tapos Ruel Kaagbay, Vicente Ferrer. We support the candidacy of Toto Kausing. Salamat po. Asan na yung notebook ko? Ito pala. Romel Garcia, Emily Susan Romero, nasa Nabutas. So, ngayon, Sakura, asan na bababa si Louis Gladys, Sakura 35, The Lone Wolf, Raf Romero, Ernesto Gentica, Sakura, Ernesto Gentica, Hermes Polioso, Arnel Molieno, Ernesto Gentica, Ray Santos. So, okay, Franklin Panugaling, Pilimon Sadoses, tapos Drowning Waters, Olan Idol, Jude Ransan. Okay, so magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat, no? Pero papatiin ko muna yung mga lahat ng Pilipino. Sa Pangasinan, kay Jaime Kino, happy birthday. Ha? Diyan ka sa Mangaldan ngayon. Happy birthday. Tapos, ano ngayon? Hapon. So, hapon, Masantos, ya kaapuan, no? Kaapusan ba yun? Kaapuan, isikain amin. Tapos sa Ilocano, maimbag na malim, kada kayo amin. Tapos sa mga Kapampangan, mayap igat panapon. Sa Igorot, mapteng din masim. Tapos sa may Bicolano, marhay na hapon. Sa mga waray-waray, maupay nga kulop. Sa mga Cebuano, maayong hapon. Sa mga Buholano nga kababayan sa aking misis na si Aw ay maayong hapon. Sa mga Maranao, mapya alungan, no? Tapos sa mga Maguindanao, Mambo. Tapos sa Tausog, marayaw na hapon. Sa Surigao, kung saan napunta naman ng isang kulto na si Senyor Aguila, maradyaw kahapon sa inyo kurot. So yan po ang ating magpatapos na tayo, no? So magandang hapon na lang sa lahat at pasalamat kayo at ang ating warrant of arrest kay Apollo, Demonyo, Quiboloy, andyan na. Cesar Yarte, Michael Yang. Michael Yang, salamat si Michael Yang pala. So, okay. Salamat sa Cesar Yarte. Bobby Borderais. Sir, may ipipage po. May ipipage ako. Pakipollow nyo ako para kumita na rin ako. Salamat sa mga paghahanga nyo sa akin at hindi masasayang po paghanga nyo sa akin. Yan lang aking masisigurado sa inyo. Louie Gladys, ha? Okay. So, Jonathan Junicio, mag-isip-isip ka na. Alam mo, kawawa ka naman. Kaluluoy ka gihid. Okay. Wala na si Duterte mo.